Hi guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. With the VCT Playoffs getting underway in 3 separate regions today, big questions being raised on what teams need to make roster changes that did not make the playoffs. It seems FURIA are finally going to be pulling the trigger on getting pANcada into their roster. Is this a good move for pANcada given the circumstances? And also, how about NRG? Zellsis and Sinatraa discussing what if Sinatraa was to return to professional play and go and join NRG, as the rumour was that he trials there a few months ago. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thought it was actually really cool to see RB's father talk about how he was, in a much better spot now. He's gone to China and working with those TEC guys, and we shall see right about now how that is getting on. So here we go. Of course, Titan Esports Club didn't make it to the playoffs, but Trace Esports did, and they're currently at 1-0. So the playoffs are getting underway today in the various regions around the world. The Pacific is already happening, right? And we're going to see their losers finals, grand finals over the coming days. The 3 teams of Shanghai from that region, of course, already been confirmed. Gen.G, T1, PaperX, no DRX, of course. But Trace Esports are at 1-0 on all gamers as it stands. And, well, the breeze is just about to start, as you guys can see. But still, Edward and FPX will be the heavy favourites here to win the upper semi-finals. Outside of that, it is rather difficult to predict. This is the EMEA side. Just to have a look at the games. Fnatic, Liquid. These are knockouts as well, just to make that very clear in the first round. The loser of this goes home. So, and Liquid looked great in their most recent series. So this is difficult to call. Fnatic are going to be the favourites here, but I definitely think there's a world in which Liquid can get a 2-1 victory. And then Na'Vi Heretics. That's another pretty tricky one to call, but I do think that Na'Vi, despite what Heretics did earlier in the season, should be the stronger team. But 2 very interesting games. And in the Americas, we have Cloud9 G2 and then 100T Loud, which are both happening this evening. Again, loser goes home. So, Cloud9 probably favourite against G2, especially with the way that Oxy's been playing and the fact that G2 got kind of crushed by Loud the other day. And then 100T Loud, I mean, what a series that is. I genuinely think 100T have a great chance here. I feel like it feels like their time to, actually qualify for an international again. But to do so, they'll have to beat Loud. And this is why, if I'm pANcada, I'm thinking I've got to bide my time just a little bit here, because if Loud win this series, as they will be favoured to, that's probably fine. But if Loud were to lose this series, looking at their recent results, yes, their victory against Sentinels and G2 were impressive, and they are favoured to beat 100 Thieves as well. But if they were to lose, would they consider a potential roster change? You wouldn't entirely rule it out. And that's why this pANcada discussion to me is kind of interesting. Just to clarify, by the way, yesterday we said that for the losers finals and grand finals of the regions, they're going to play on the new patch. But actually, Coleman Palms said this the other day now, that they won't be playing on that until Masters Shanghai. So there were some questions on exactly what the truth of this was, because Dida yesterday from T1 had said that the new patch is going to be there for the losers finals and grand finals. So effectively, once all the players have been and teams have been determined who's going to Shanghai, then they would play the new patch for the final couple of events or final couple of matches, so at least those teams get some practice with the Viper nerfs before the big events, because you turn up to Shanghai just having qualified on an entirely new patch, and now you're playing a completely new meta. It's probably not the best timing, really. So I was making the argument that, yeah, this maybe makes sense. The 3 teams are locked in already. Why not let them practice on the new patch for a couple of games? But apparently this isn't the case, and I'm not really sure why this happens, because he says, yeah, there was a translation mistake here. So, yeah, kind of confusing. Somebody said something that was interpreted in one way that it shouldn't have been, and then this was then said. But no, he says, yeah, we will play in the 8.07 for the finals, so it will only change come Shanghai, which is maybe not even the best idea, to be honest, but it is probably the more expected situation. Now, let's talk about some roster moves, because in the Brazilian side, there's been lots of talk on that region lately as to who are going to be the next up players, what's going to be the best team in that region when it comes down to Ascension, for example, for this season, but also FURIA, because we know that pANcada, this is now back in March, was in discussions with FURIA to join them, and then he had a health issue that prevented him from playing, and therefore he decided to focus on his health, focus on his stream, and that's what was said at the time by Bruno Popoleri, and of course we'll discuss what he has to say here in a second. But yeah, this was said back in March. Proposal from pANcada, who made a counter proposal. FURIA accepted. It looked like everything was going to be done, but then he had health issues, and then he wanted to focus on his live streaming and this type of stuff as well. Then this is the update as of yesterday from Bruno Popoleri again. Quickly on Owner as well, because of course controversial coach, shall we say, in that region. And yeah, the belief is that he was not even considered by FURIA because, you know, controversies in the past, and apparently they're not going to go there, basically. They are, however, trying to form basically a super team of Brazilian talent. And if they do this and they pull this off, there are some very talented players on that FURIA roster. One may argue there are too many. You can't have too many talented players, but in some sense you kind of can if they have big personalities that may clash and not go down so well. But FURIA, they ain't been great, have they? They've been getting slapped around. They, you know, didn't win a series, of course, in the Americas, failed to make it to the playoffs. So they've got to do something. pAncada was close to joining before. Apparently that is now going to be happening. So FURIA, their VALORANT team, talks are very, very much underway with the signings of pAncada and Zanz for the second stage of the Americas. All that remains is for the two to sign the contracts. Apparently everything is basically done. The terms are agreed to. They just got to put pen to paper. If nothing changes, Conan is gone and Khalil should be out as well. So yeah, apparently pAncada and Zanz coming in for stage 2 of the Americas. And is this a good idea for pAncada? That was some of the questions, as Bo says. Please don't join FURIA pAncada. You deserve better. But and maybe that is justified. You know, it wasn't long ago we were talking about, well, if Lev underperform, how about there? If Loud, you know, what about a pAncada return to Loud? Okay, you've got to wonder how you make that fit from roles and all these other questions. But nonetheless, it's got to be something worth thinking about. But at the same time, pAncada probably wants to play, right? Because he's obviously been on Sentinels. Sentinels have allowed him to explore options. And yes, they have had a rough stage 1, the Sentinels guys. But realistically, pAncada is never coming back. After the victory at Masters Madrid, they're not going to entertain that. They believe that roster they have Sentinels is the one to go forward with. And I think they are right to believe such. So pAncada, if he really wants to play, you know, FURIA are there giving him an offer with a team of Nozwa and Wazera, Havoc, Zan, pAncada. I mean, those are some very, very talented players. But, you know, players with big personalities, and you got to wonder whether, you know, they could keep on top of that, let's say, as a franchise. But I think it is something worth considering, absolutely, and we'll see if it actually comes true. Now, Sentinels, we've got to discuss briefly on them, because they, of course, has not had the greatest result lately, but neither did NRG. Sentinels were 2 rounds away, as, you know, just throwing up the 2 here. 2 rounds, so is Kaide. 2 rounds away from making it through to the playoffs. If they just won 2 more rounds, if there was a 2 more round swing between them and G2, they would have made it. But after NRG's phenomenal start to the stage, NRG were outdone by both of those guys and ended up last in a 5-team group. It was pretty funny as well that this image here on the left-hand side was actually initially including Sentinel's head of content, but this was then photoshopped out. So unlucky, pal. You know, you tried, but it didn't quite go through. But I did want to show a clip here between Zeltis and Sinatraa, talking about the situation, of course, kind of roasting NRG and also, you know, kind of roasting himself. But Sinatraa and Zeltis throwing around the possibility of a potential return to pro play. NRG may need someone to save them.
Good try, bro.
Okay, bro.
I don't talk to people who lose to nobodies.
Whatever, bro. Wait, who do we lose to? Lev, EG, Loud.
Exactly.
Yo, can you come back?
Come back where?
You know,
bro?
maybe save someone, save a couple teams here and there.
You can save NRG. How's that team not making it is insane, no?
That's what I'm saying. Like Sentinels, how's NRG not making it?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's divert the attention. Like, Sends whatever. Yeah, but
Sends hit or miss. Like NRG on paper should just be winning everything, no?
Yeah. I feel bad. Like, the thing is, I can't keep harping on that team or these guys, bro. I've been harping on them since they've made the team, and now like.
Who, NRG?
Yeah, NRG. But like every interview I've done, it's like, oh, what super team or what team do you think won't make it? And I always say NRG. It's not that I hate them. I don't hate the players. Like I like the players.
Wait, for champs in Tokyo or whatever, are you going? Like even if you didn't make this land, you still go because you won the first one, or no? Or do you have to like?
No, we still need to win more. Like we're not like 100% in. Like we're close,
so like if you qualified for this land, you would have made it.
Oh yeah, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, just shameless.
So we've talked about FNS, we've talked about SOM on that NRG team before, maybe making a return if absolutely necessary. And even Ethan said it the other day, good players NRG have, but a bad team they are, right? And I think that is relatively clear. And Ethan made that very evident indeed. Now, when they were making their decision in the early part of the season who they were going to sign, of course, Marved was going to be there. I think there was no doubt about that. They were going to keep Victor and Crashies around, but there was discussion on, you know, bringing Demon One into the fold, bringing Ethan into the fold from Evil Geniuses. They were looking at other options, and they trailed Sinatraa. Pretty sure this is true. I don't think it was ever said explicitly, but there was talk between Marv and Chet on stream, and they basically said, well, Chet was like, oh, maybe don't mention that one, and Marv was like, oh yeah, maybe don't mention that one, and then everyone kind of knew, okay, yeah, they were talking about Sinatraa there. Of course, a very talented player, a player, of course, that after all the controversy has been out of the league for a rather long time, but probably still talented enough to compete if he were to wish to, and there's an argument to say that might be a good idea. So we'll see what NRG come up with, because clearly their current roster isn't working. In the same way that FURIA are making changes, what do NRG do? Do they just go back to the drawing board with this roster and try and make it work? But, you know, they've failed so far. They failed to qualify for Madrid. They failed to qualify for Shanghai. They're not looking in a great position to qualify for the World Championship either. So you've got to think that they've got to do something. I kind of doubt they'll keep this roster if they don't feel like they can turn it around, and I think that they are good enough too. But as Sinatraa said, that team on paper should be so dominant because the talent that they have. But it ain't working, so you've got to do something, and maybe that something might have to be a rather drastic decision. And it's not like Marv is, you know, totally washed or anything. Sure, he didn't have a great stage, but in terms of clutch percentage, Marv still, the Iceman, led the way. 53%, clutch 9 of 17 situations, and actually in terms of 1v1s, he was 5 out of 5, the most without losing one. Which, you know, so again, it's not like their guys individually have fallen off, but as a team it ain't working. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.